All right, this is blue dwarf curled kale. These are the seeds that I have harvested, and this is probably one of the worst spots that I could possibly do it, so I'm bringing these outside to a more manageable spot. So pretty much, if kale overwinters, it goes to seed. It is a biennial, and that goes for most of the leafy greens like collard and Swiss chard, and even beets as well. That's basically how you're going to get them to produce seeds, is they have to survive the winter and make it through into the next season. So what I'm doing here is I do live on a state highway, so that is kind of annoying. But what I'm doing here is basically taking the kale stalks that have dried, and I'm running my hands like this over a bowl. I've found that so far this is the best way to get them to break off. And some of the other methods that I was trying were, I should say, to be grammatically correct, snipping individual seed pods and cracking them over a container. That was not very efficient at all. It was really annoying. And then I tried putting them into a bag and shaking them. That was also not very efficient. So this has proven thus far to be the best way. And again, this is my first time ever doing it. I didn't watch any videos on how to properly deal with these, but it's so many seeds that I'm not really too worried about it. Especially considering that all it takes is one plant. And these are seeds that I can give out to friends and family or just keep. And I already know that I love this variety, and I was just very lucky that it produced so much. So I took all of the hulls and I put them into this jar, and I'm basically just going to give them a really good shake. And I'll see what I get out of this. So one thing that I'm noticing is that there are still a few uncracked hulls in here that I'm going to have to go in and twist open by hand just to extract the most. But so far, there's a pretty good amount at the bottom of this jar. And then this is what we have from just shaking everything out initially. So no matter what we end up with, this is more than enough kale seed for what I need. And if you see this big droopy plant right here with like the little yellow flowers, yeah, you can see some of the seed holes are starting to dry. It's got these bright yellow flowers on top. That is the kale plant from last year. This is the stump. I've had to prune it back quite a bit because it was starting to split open from its own weight. And during the early season, this was essentially a giant slug shelter, and so they were hollowing it out. But it's still managing to put off a lot of new growth, and when it's very young like this, these little baby leaves are actually quite delicious. So I've grabbed a strainer for steaming. It's got very small holes in it, and I'm actually going to plop that right in here and just pour all of this directly on top. And we'll just see what happens. Well, I thought that'd be a little easier to get out than this, but yeah, let's just get these all through. First time for everything, I suppose. The fuck was that? My cat just did something weird in the house. Pansy, what'd you do? So basically what I'm doing is taking this strainer and massaging all the seed holes to try and break them up even further and see what pops out. And I'm just gonna do this a little bit further, give it a good shake, and then I'm just gonna call it a success, because clearly we got a ton. So, just gonna give it a good shake. See what we end up with. Oh boy, there's a lot that are not coming through. That's weird. I thought this would be small enough, or I should say big enough, but they're actually literally just the right size. As you can see, they are literally getting stuck because they are barely millimeters too big to fit through. And I'm gonna take all these scraps over to the compost pile. Well, neighbors are unhappy. So after all of those steps, this is what we end up with. A very significant pile of seeds. Uh-oh. That's not good. One of those was soft. Uh-oh. Casualties. Well, can't save them all. This is certainly a lot more than you would get from the garden store. So I'm gonna slap a label on this and throw some in to some potting soil so we can have some fall harvest dwarf blue curled kale.